Johg Ananda, Jambo Superfoods. Johg Ananda of Jambo Superfoods out of Southern California joins us and discusses the opportunity cost of yoga. Welcome to Cannabis Economy. I'm your host, Seth Adler. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our new YouTube channel with the handle Can Economy. That's two N's in the word economy. Not sure how you're accessing this, but please know that you can get us through the new Cannabis Economy app in iTunes, through the iTunes podcast app, and Google Play. Of course, happy to be on the Cannabis Radio Network and the Sexpot Comedy Co-op. Johg Ananda discusses how he uses his inner chi in the boardroom, traversing the pathway to enlightenment through a sound mind and body. With compliments to WINS News in New York regarding Johg Ananda, you give him 13 minutes, he'll give you the world. All right, so it's New York City and Southern California. It's me, and it's you, Johg Ananda. Is that about right?
Yeah, we're here. Bring New York over. I'm excited.
All right, so Jambo Superfoods. Let's first and foremost make sure we know, what you're doing with that. We know that you've got products that you're proud of. So take us through, just simply what the brand is, and then we'll investigate further.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it really helps when you develop products and sell them, that you believe in them and you kind of eat your own dog food, so to speak. So this product line came from my own desire for products that kind of mesh with my lifestyle. Most of the stuff on the market, even today, and especially back in 2013, 14, when we were first thinking about this, were brownies and cookies, and that's typically what people still think about when they think about edibles, gummy bears and stuff like that. So I wanted something that kind of fit into my personal way of life and diet, and that's what all the products stand for.
And when did you start producing?
The actual products?
Yeah.
Well, I first played around with the recipe like back in maybe 15 years ago when I was a much younger kid, and kind of wrote it down and then forgot about it. And I went out to a local dispensary when I moved to California looking for something that wasn't just a cookie or a brownie. I'd been eating a bunch of these little Jolly Rancher type candies once I moved to California and got my doctor's recommendation. And I liked them because they were accurate. You could eat like a third of it and get to the same place every time. But it was basically high fructose corn syrup. So went out, talked to some dispensary owners, and they would tell me they had a vegan option, something that I would take a look at. And it was really, just, it didn't have dairy in it, but it was still a sugary brownie or something, and it really wasn't what I was looking for. So that was back in about late 2013, and we kind of were exploring and kicking the idea around for a year or so, and then in 2015, we came into operation.
You mentioned that you moved to California. Where are you from?
South Florida.
Okay. And did you grow up in South Florida? Is that where you spent your formative years?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Florida. I went to school at the University of Florida and lived there most of my life. I took a job out of school into Washington, D.C., and one winter kind of told me that, if I didn't have to deal with the winter, I didn't want to. So I moved back to Florida, and I was living down in South Beach, really enjoying it down there, but looking for something more. And I didn't see a total cultural fit between myself and the South Florida culture, and that's when I moved out west to California.
So, and you and I have talked about this in the past, this kind of sound, mind, and body thing. Your general approach to life. You mentioned that Southern Florida didn't mesh with you, or you didn't mesh with it. Is this something that you? Is this a way of for you that you've had since childhood, or did you develop kind of the sound mind and body approach as you went?
I mean, life's a journey, and it's been a progression of trying to find my way and find where I fit in. Everybody's kind of looking for that. It started with I was an overweight kid, and I started trying to figure out how to get my body in shape, and started learning more about health and education. Learning about taking care of your body led me into the kind of personal development world of trying to improve myself. From there, I kind of migrated over to business and learning more about business. And from that, I realized that you've got to really take care of your mind and what goes in it, and work on your mind if you really want to operate at a high sophisticated level. And that's kind of what got me closer to the spiritual path. And as I've moved through it, I've looked into the marketplace for solutions for different products and services that kind of fit what I'm into. And when I haven't found something that I'm really passionate about, and I think there's a good product market fit, I've started a business. So we've got a couple of different brands that make products that are generally aligned in this this way of life.
Mm-hmm. And you've got the products, but you guys are also active, aside from the products, really kind of I don't want to say preaching the gospel of sound mind and body, but you are active in bringing folks together and making sure that they do truly come together.
Okay, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. So I do put on cannabis ceremonies. They're like approximately a 3-hour endeavor where we bring cannabis in. It's not necessarily required, but it really enhances the experience, and create a container where we set intention of trying to develop internal discipline and going on a little bit of a spiritual quest. And that's facilitated by several different modalities. Pranayama, which is like focused and guided breath work. Then we move into some Kundalini yoga kriyas, which are breath and motion sequences that are tied together to kind of create energy within the body and awaken the spine, and kind of bring the mind into the present. It really focuses and stills the mind. And then that leads into a sound bath and relaxed, shavasana, where people get to lay down and really just go deep with different instruments and frequencies that really facilitate that. So that's been really a fusion of a lot of the different trainings and practices I've learned over the last several years. I know we've talked about previously that cannabis has been used in a spiritual tradition for thousands of years. The early drawings of Shiva have cannabis as a part of that. So there's a long tradition. It's a very powerful medicine for doing this kind of work. It seems that cannabis and the states that come from consuming it really like motion. They really like dancing or yoga, and we can take that energy and channel it. A lot of times people they eat too much and they get anxious, or they don't feel good, and that can be because they don't really know how to work with what they're doing. And that's what I'm trying to learn about myself and try to share that with others, is trying to understand, what's the potential here? What can we do with this? How do we do it? And I feel like we're still amateurs compared to where people might be in 100 years, since we're really coming out of prohibition. But this is an incredible medicine, and if you do yoga or you meditate or you're able to do one of these practices that I put together, almost everyone universally comes out of it and says, like, wow, that was a mystical experience.
So yes, you speak of mystical experiences. I think that we've had kind of over 125 episodes of Cannabis Economy, and folks would have expected this in every episode, and we give them none of that. So that is why, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is to connect that kind of mindset with business, because when you first brought up, of sound, mind, and body, kind of your investigation, that had to do with your employment or how you approach business. How do you connect those two things. Obviously, for you, it's one in the same. But for somebody who maybe doesn't do yoga, maybe isn't familiar with the terminology that you're using, how informative is the way that you approach yoga to helping you with your business mind?
Sure. So I like to start by kind of redefining yoga. So most people think of yoga and they see somebody with their arms up in kind of like a warrior stance, and they're stretching, and it's very strenuous. And that is yoga. That's hatha yoga, and there's some other kind of types of yoga that are really focused on that. But if you go back to the Sanskrit, yoga is union, and it's to yoke. It's union. It's the union of the individual self with the universal self. And you might think of the individual self as your consciousness, and the universal self being the Brahman, Nirvana, Satori, God. There's all different words that the different traditions have used to describe this other thing. And so yoga, true yoga in the traditional sense, is developing a practice of trying to bring those things together. And we've heard the stories, of the monks up on the mountain, meditating and take, vows of silence for 20 years, and the ascetics. And there's all different ways to kind of go to this place. A lot of the psychedelics do this. Flotation tanks can do it. Yoga can do it. And when we think about that monk up there, like what's really happening there is a lot of intention and a lot of discipline. So if anybody's ever done yoga, especially with the hands up and the warrior stance hatha yoga, they know it's hard to do. I mean, it's not a real easy thing. So I look at it, especially Kundalini yoga, as a practice to build will, to build the ability to focus intention, essentially what discipline is. And when I think about what makes a good executive, like a CEO or someone who's having to make a lot of decisions, deal with unpredictable emotional episodes constantly, you want someone who can kind of move through that steadily and is unflappable. And that's where I see yoga kind of coming into the business space. And I actually think it's kind of weird that it's so rare, because it's so powerful in steadying the mind and giving you perspective and allowing you to kind of focus on things and put them in their proper context. So for me, it's been an invaluable tool, and I couldn't imagine not using it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the connection that you made there. Thank you. You said you guys do a fair amount of content creation yourselves. Is it in this area that you're offering content?
Yeah, so if you go to jambosuperfoods.com/intentional high, we post various behaviors and practices people can do by themselves or with a group to kind of bring this practice. So I've got a couple things I've posted on there that are guided audio kriyas, or meditations that someone could listen to, and it's completely walks you through the whole thing from the beginning to the end. It's very easy, because it's easy to say this. It's easy to say, like, use cannabis in an intentional, conscious way. But I wanted to find a way to actually make this accessible to people and bring them this knowledge and show them that there is a way to do this. So I see that as being a big part of Jambo Superfoods' brand and mission, is to demystify a lot of this and make it accessible. There's plenty of people that are bringing a different message about cannabis out there, and we want to create content that allows people to explore this nexus of spirituality and the medicine.
And what's the feedback that you get, whether it be from a CEO or otherwise, about what folks are taking away from it? Obviously, we're hearing your perspective. You're bought in. What about folks that are new to it and kind of come away from it for the first time? What is the feedback that you hear?
Well, usually people are pretty amazed that they can just kind of sit down on the floor and breathe, essentially, is what you're doing, for 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, and just feel so so present and refreshed. People are delighted. It's an incredible experience, and it's a huge feedback loop for me. And kind of why I teach is to be able to give this experience to people and show them that they don't need to go buy something all the time or watch some TV. Do that, but also maybe just try for 5 minutes in a day or 7 minutes in a day or an hour if you're fortunate enough to have that time, and kind of look inward and have some fun with it at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's something that I told you that I would like to do, but even the concept of slowing down that much gets me anxious.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. That is an everlasting question, and one that I would love to have answered. I don't know. Why do you think that is? Why not ask you?
I mean, it happens every day. I wake up, and in my living room, I've got a little yoga area, which I just, to the listeners, is one of the best things I ever did in my life, was carve out a little space that was like a fun little area to stretch and just sit down. And I tried waking up in the morning and doing my yoga mat like next to my bed, and that just sucks because it's, I don't know, having a nice little fun area. But that being said, I still will wake up in the morning and I'll look at it and I'll say like, oh man, I got all these things to do. Maybe I should just go into the office and just hit the to-do list.
That's precisely what that is precisely my point of view. As soon as I'm awake, I'm thinking, all right, what can I get done?
Exactly. But then you also got to think, if I look at that day, I look at my day and I have two instances of it. And one of those days I just go right out the door and I go and hit the to-do list. Or I have another day where I, get my heart going, I sweat a little bit, I meditate for a little bit, I stretch, and then I go do all those things. And maybe the transaction cost is 13 minutes. Which is a better day? If I did that every day for 10 years, which day is going to cume in the better direction? And I always go back to the day when I take care of myself, and I bring that same philosophy to the boardroom. When I have our executive team together and I'm talking to them, it's real easy for them to every day just hit that to-do list and move through the items. But it's also, one of the things we've established in our team is that every 2 weeks we take one day out of those 10 and we work on the business as opposed to in the business. So instead of just like thinking about how can I make all the widgets, we take a day and just say, well, how are we making the widgets? Why are we making the widgets? Can we make the widgets a little bit better, and try to build systems around it. And I look at that as kind of being a fractal of this kind of, decision you make every morning. Like, should you take care of yourself a little bit and like work on yourself, or just kind of go work in yourself? Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I love the phrase transaction cost. I think that will resonate with at least most listeners. Hey, this will cost you 13 minutes, and isn't that worth it?
Well, it also costs a lot of willpower. And I think that we each have like a budget of how much you can make every day. I mean, one of the things that I've taken away from a lot of successful people that I've like read biographies of is that a lot of them try to just automate decision making. And I think that's why Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day. Is, he didn't want to have to just even contemplate, what am I putting on every day? A lot of people they eat the same thing every day. So when you first start, I think that's maybe why it's hard to start, because it's a big decision. It's unpleasant to sit on the floor and be with yourself if your brain is totally scattered. So to kind of summon that and do that, the first several times until you get the habit. Once you get the habit, it's real easy, and then it seems silly to not do it.
And so, you're talking about those first few times sitting down. It does feel like those first few times would be complete and utter mental chaos. Yeah,
I don't know if I would sell it to the listeners like as complete and utter chaos.
No, I'm telling you how I feel about sitting down. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, we could psychoanalyze you, but what I would say is here's my model for it. you know how a lot of people eat too much cannabis and they freak out. It's kind of the phrase, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah. So what I think is kind of happening, and is that everybody has trauma. Everybody has had experiences. You know, they asked Sally out on a date, and the first time ever they got the courage, and she said no. Or, you know, their parents, you know, reprimand them the wrong way, or you know, who knows? Everyone has a very complicated human experience, and a lot of times, you know, our culture doesn't train us on how to really process these difficult events, how to have difficult conversations. Most sitcoms, you know, they deal with interpersonal, you know, strife in a very maybe funny but surface level, and all that stuff is accumulating. And what I see the plant medicines, and I go beyond cannabis in this, where I would say, you know, ayahuasca, the fungi, the mushrooms, the psychedelic medicines. What they do is they seem to help process that kind of trauma. And the way that they do it is if you can think of everybody taking those traumatic experiences and just kind of shoving them in the back closet and slamming the door, saying, I don't want to deal with that. These medicines kind of like slowly open the door up, and some of them open the door more than others. So if you take a huge amount of, you know, LSD, it's like blowing the door open. But cannabis has a really nice way of just kind of like allowing little bits and pieces of it to come out. And that's why I think you get the freak out, is if people take too much, the cannabis is opening up this kind of place that everyone's just kind of locked down and said, I don't want to deal with this. And all that shit just comes out too fast. And that's where the yoga comes in, and the meditation. And really the Kundalini is powerful because the movement takes you out of just being just in your head. And it allows you to kind of process that stuff in a way that is unavailable to most people. So, you know, I think that's, you know, when most people are sitting down to kind of like meditate, and they don't have the context or the experience or someone that's explaining it in this way, they're trying to deal with a very difficult problem that's accumulated over a long time, and they don't have the tools to kind of address it.
That makes sense, and practice makes perfect. I want to separate the plant. I want to separate the medicine from what I'm talking about, because I literally am only talking about kind of sitting on the floor. If I'm taking the 13 minutes, right? If that's my investment, if you will.
Yeah.
What am I trying to accomplish by the end of that 13 minutes? What am I doing within that 13 minutes?
Okay, so I got a thing for you to try, and I'd like you to try this, and I'm gonna follow up with you as a friend after and see if you do this. But if you go to that website that I told you, jambosuperfoods.com/intentional high, there's a post on that blog that's for. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it's like an 11-minute pranayama. So it's a breathing exercise that I guide someone through. Guide you. You listen to it, and what's nice about it is that it's like this 10-minute, 13-minute thing. But there's a good enough instruction to it that you're not going to be all in your head so much thinking about all the swirling things that are terrifying to you. You'll just be kind of like trying to listen to my voice and follow along. So it'll say, you know, inhale, hold it, exhale, these different approaches. And what I have found universally from anybody that does this is that really kind of no matter what state of mind you're in, so if you're in like really, you know, frantically, you just were on the highway and, you know, you drove across town to get to this class, and people are kind of like, you know, a little stressed out. At the end of this 10 minutes, you're going to be in the present. You're going to have exited that state of mind, and you're going to come into this other state of mind that I don't have like a really juicy vocabulary for. It's one thing that I think we're lacking. But you're going to be relaxed, and you're going to feel good, and you're going to be just kind of in your body and not having that frantic mindset. So, I mean, that's one of the main benefits, is that you can, in 10 minutes, kind of no matter where your head is at, you can kind of come into this other state where you're more relaxed and more present.
And I like the way that you're presenting it. You know, just deal with that 10 minutes, just breathe, as opposed to the first time you sit down, don't try to deal with, you know, 20 years, 30 years of whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the guided breathing is really powerful because our breath, when I started getting into this, I thought about, when I really kind of figured out how powerful the breathing was, I felt like I had been walking through, my parents' attic, and I found, under this dusty cover, I pulled this cover away, and there was this control board with all these knobs and switches. And I started playing with it, and it's like the control system to your emotional state of mind and your consciousness, and using your breath. It's like this weird interface that we have access to between our body, which is rather autonomous. I mean, we can't really control our heartbeat or our liver or any of these things. But the breath is this weird fusion of, like, you can control it, and you can be intentional, and you can and control your breath, and you can also just talk to Seth, and it takes care of itself. So it's a way we can kind of consciously affect the physical body. And if you let that sink in, I mean, I'm telling it to you intellectually, but when you intuitively understand that like you have control, like if you're stressed out or you're, frantic, or you want to be more energized because you're tired, we have access to that. And that's what I'm saying. It's like this control system that nobody talks about, but it's there. Everybody's got it, and no one's practiced using it. So the first time, the first couple times, it's tough. And if you haven't, gone for a jog in 10 years, the first 10 or 20 times is going to be tough. But if you go jogging, 50 times in a row, on the 51st time, you're going to get a runner's high because you're going to love it. So I think there's a little bit of that for everybody. But it is still super accessible.
There we go. All right, I'm in. I'm doing it tomorrow morning. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah,
all right?
and then at 4:20 you should do it again with a little bit with a Jambo potion spray, and then tell me how it is.
Well, so I will be in Colorado, not California, which brings me to my next kind of line of questioning here for 420. As far as California is concerned, you're operating there. Tell us about, how you and Jambo are dealing with MRSA, how, kind of the impending regulations are treating your business, and how your business is treating those impending regulations.
Yeah, so we're excited that California is getting its act together, so to speak, and it'll be easier for us to kind of just operate in the world. Being in the cannabis space is really tough, as you know. So every opportunity we have to kind of comply, we're doing that. For example, we've got over 50 SKUs, and as we kind of cycle through our packaging and labels, we're reprinting things with all of the AB 266 statutory language. So
right.
we're doing that. We're relocating to municipalities that have kind of got their act together and are working on putting together common sense regulations that we can follow. And we're doing everything we can to comply with the state of California and make sure that we can bring delicious, healthy and safe products to the market.
Yeah, and as a product manufacturer, you get to deal with multiple dispensaries. What's the just give us a sense of on the ground how folks are feeling, how folks are acting, how it feels here towards the end of the first quarter 2016. It's going to be a big year. How do folks feel?
Everybody's excited. Everybody feels that it's pretty inevitable, adult use, and not just in California but across the whole country. We've got a big presence in Southern California, and we're still hearing about raids happening and places getting shut down, and a lot of folks don't understand that. They can't wrap their head around, the Assembly's passed a bill, the governor has signed it. This is coming, and yet district attorneys and the police are still using their resources to go after people that are dealing with flowers. So there's kind of a little bit of,
and that's no exaggeration. There are many instances where that is the case now as we speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got my finger on the pulse about this, and I hear about what happened to Midwest down in San Diego, and there's shops in Los Angeles. Not so much in Northern California. They seem to be a little more sophisticated, and they tend to be about a year ahead of what's happening down in the South. But it's still a reality, and it's confusing, but we kind of look at it as that you've got this, 70, 100-year-old machine of oppression and illegality, and it's dying. The hydra is drowning, and it's just lashing out as much as it can, and trying to do what it can while before it's done. So it's not too surprising in that sense that they're still kind of going full steam and getting in what they can and trying to get as many arrests as they can, or whatever the metric is that they're trying to go after. But it's I think that history is going to be on our side, and the voters are gonna make a big change in November.
Yeah, indeed, and we're going to avoid the opportunity to get into presidential politics there, and and just go ahead and go to the final three questions with the understanding that I will give you a ring tomorrow and let you know how tomorrow morning goes. But the final three questions are, I'll let you know what they are, and then I'll ask you them in order. What has most surprised you in cannabis? Second question is, what has most surprised you in life? And then the third question, which is either the most difficult or easiest, is on the soundtrack of Ananda's life, what is one song, one track that must be on there? So first things first, what has most surprised you in cannabis?
What has most surprised me? I would say when I really kind of figured out how this transition was going to occur, I thought that there was kind of like this big legalization switch that Obama was going to flip, and then it was going to go from the dark days to like the wonderful happy days. And instead, it's like a million little switches, and it's all of these different municipalities and counties and cities and states, all on a one-by-one basis, are going to have to deal with this issue and decide what they want to do. And that was kind of a real interesting understanding of both cannabis and then the world at large, and how our political system works. Yeah,
absolutely. I think when he was voted in and kind of sworn in, there was certainly that thought. Industry certainly behaved that way, and I think we have industry where we wouldn't have had industry based on the thought that switch was going to be flipped on. So it was flipped on, just in a different way, type of thing. But what has most surprised you in life? I can't wait to hear the answer.
What's most surprised me in life? That it's a game. Society tells us that there's this set of rules, and there's certain things that are important. And everything is so serious, and you go to hell and all these kind of norms. But in this kind of spiritual psychedelic path that I've gone down, I've really been able to kind of recontextualize my understanding of life in this experience, and realizing that this place can be a hall of horrors worse than you can imagine, or it's a buffet of pleasures. Every time I walk into Whole Foods, I'm just amazed that there's like 20,000 delicious different tastes like available to me. It's just like it's so wonderful if you can see it that way, and it seems like it's almost a choice to whether you're paying attention to all the news about waterboarding and wars and all these things, or you look at the grocery store as like this buffet of amazingness. And I'd say kind of understanding that prism, which was kind of like it's my decision to choose which way I see it.
Yeah, that kind of speaks to our first part of the conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So, let's do that. Let's make sure that there's a key takeaway, if you will, from that first part of the conversation, from the sound, mind, and body thing. If you're talking to business owners and folks that are patients and consumers, and if they take nothing else away from you as far as sound, mind, and body, what would you want them to take away?
Just breathe, sit down and breathe for a couple minutes every day.
All right.
Sometimes it's the simple things, Seth,
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is what you instructed me to do, and that's what you're instructing them to do. It makes sense.
Yeah.
As far as the soundtrack of your life, what is one song and one track that must be on there? I'd be surprised if it was "Every Breath You Take" by the Police, although that would be certainly that would make sense.
Seth, that is an amazing callback. I mean, this is why you're brilliant. This is why I agreed to do your show, because that was amazing. The soundtrack for my life.
Yeah.
Oh man.
This is just one song.
Yeah, I'm not good with the names of songs. It's a weird thing about me. I've got an amazing recall, and music and lyrics is something that I've never been really good with. I don't want to let you down here, man, about this song.
You could just hum a few bars of something that you like, and then we'll probably be able to kind of deduce where you're going with it.
Okay, I'll give you one. I don't know, the name of it is on the tip of my tongue, but it's by Lisa Gerrard, and it's that song from Gladiator where he's walking through the field with the wheat. You know what I'm talking about?
Unfortunately, I don't, because I don't think that you're talking about. No, I don't know. I know Spartacus. I know.
You didn't see Gladiator with Russell Crowe?
I think I did. I think I probably did, but I'm definitely more familiar with the full-length motion picture epic Spartacus. But
wait.
That's Kubrick.
Gladiator is a full motion picture epic as well.
Indeed. It's just not of the same. It's not Kubrick, I guess. Is my point.
Well, it definitely.
So I don't know the song. What's that?
It of course, it's not Kubrick, but is anything that's not Kubrick just disqualified from consideration?
No. I think what it is my mind, and maybe you can relate to this. My mind can only kind of remember so much, and so I like to try to focus on the stuff that I like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think you're cutting yourself a little short on your capability. You could probably remember the name of another movie and director. And speaking of remembering,
that's true.
I remember the song is "Now We Are Free."
That sounds good.
Yeah.
And to that end, I think we're talking about Russell Crowe was in Gladiator, right?
Yeah, it's a super epic movie.
Joaquin Phoenix does a good job, I think.
Yep. Joaquin Phoenix, he's one of the guys. Yeah. It's epic opening scene, and then it's the story of this general who, was turned into a slave and became a gladiator, and it's quite a movie. But there's most people who've seen it would recognize. I think they would get my reference, because there's this point where he has this vision, and he's in this field, and this beautiful voice, just kind of bellows out, and he's having visions of his wife who is murdered, and his child, and his old home, and it's this very strong emotional container that the non-Kubrick director creates for the viewer, and the song it's fantastic, and it's I don't really like lyrics much. I mean, not that I don't like them. That's not fair to lyrics. I'm not hating on them. If I'm working on something or I'm talking to somebody, to me it's like someone else is talking, and I try listening to them. So it keeps hooking my attention out. So I like music. It's a little more difficult to understand what they're saying.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I also appreciate the way that you just phrased that lyrics keep hooking your attention out. I don't know if I've ever heard it hook my attention out of what I'm paying attention to. It makes all the sense in the world. Never heard it quite said that way.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we've talked about has really been about, attention and intention, and just being aware of what's going into your brain. And it goes back to when you said, what's this big thing? And I said, how do you look at life and choosing? Are you letting in all this fear and this propaganda and all the news and all that stuff come into your life? Or are you kind of cultivating a practice of gratitude and appreciation and surrounding yourself with people that love and support you?
I love it. Johg Ananda, I am Spartacus. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
This was great. I look forward to hearing how that guided meditation treats you.
You got it. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
Okay, bye.
And there you have Johg Ananda. Very much appreciate his point of view. I did do what he asked there, and or suggested, I should say suggested. And I guess I got to keep trying. Happy to be on Cannabis Radio Network and the Sex Pod Comedy Co-op. Appreciate Johg Ananda's thoughts and his approach. Hope you did too.